Okay, so let's look at this warm-up. Okay, so they're wanting to know the range. Now, if we go back to what we have learned before, we know our range is our y. Okay, so if you look at your answer choices, you can already get rid of A and B because it has an X in it. We don't want X, so we're going to get rid of that right there. So that automatically marks it down to 2 answer choices, all you need. Okay, so then you look. Range deals with your y, so we're going to look at the very bottom of the graph and the very top of the graph. So if you look, here's the very bottom right here. Okay, which is -3. Then we look at the very top of the graph, which is right here. That's at a 2. So we're going to have -3 and 2. And so if you look at it, D is your only answer. Okay, so remember, range is very top, or bottom and top. Domain is very left and very right. Okay, so make sure you get that finished and put back in your binder. Okay, now go ahead and start copying this down, more domain and range, and this will help you on today's paper. Okay, we've been doing a lot of domain and range when you have, like, you can see the edge of the graph. Well, now if we throw in arrows on each ends of the graph, like right here and right here and down here, okay, that's when we're going to start throwing in the infinity sign. So if you look at it, when you have arrows on the ends of the graph, if it's a straight line graph, no matter what, straight line, and it's got arrows, okay, it's going to look like this. Infinity less than or equal to x less than or equal to infinity for your domain. Now what that really means is all real numbers, which is that little r right there. That means infinity, all real numbers. Okay? And then your range is the same thing. So anytime you have a straight line with arrows, it is automatically this right here, no matter what. Okay, infinity less than or equal to x less than or equal to infinity, and then the same thing with your y, which really means for both of them, all real numbers. And that's what those R's stand for, is all real numbers. Okay? Now when you have a U-shape up, okay, a U-shape up, or a U-shape down, okay, a U-shape up or a U-shape down, your domain will always be all real numbers. Okay, if they have arrows. Now, make sure they have arrows. Okay, so if they have arrows, your domain is all real numbers. It's your range that's going to look like this. You're going to have a letter, and if the arrows are going up, it's going to be greater than or equal to. If the arrows are going down, it's going to be less than or equal to, like down here. Now, then you just have to figure out where on the y-axis the curve is. So like right here, that curve was at 0, and I'm going to say that curve is at 0. Now, sometimes it's at 2, sometimes it's at -4, whatever. But just draw a line from the curve to the y-axis, and you'll figure out what number it's going to be at. Okay, so make sure you're looking at that carefully. Okay, so these 3 things will help you on today's paper. Okay, so get this paper out. I'm going to help you on a few of these, okay? And I'm not going to help you on a lot of them, just a few of them, okay? So some of them you should know. So up here at the top, let's go ahead and do this. Domain. And range. Okay, you know your domain is your x, your range is your y. Okay, when you have dots, you list it, remember? And when it's a graph that you can see left to right, obviously we'll write it a little different, okay? So, on 1, you should know how to do number 1. That's a list. Okay, now look at number 2. Okay, number 2 looks just like 1, or looks like one of our examples in our notes. So if you go back to your notes, you should know what domain is automatically, no matter what. It's your range that's going to be this. Y is less than or equal to, and then whatever the curve is at the y-axis. Okay, wherever it is at the y-axis. Okay, I'm going to let you figure out that number. Okay, so if you look at number 3, Now this one I'm going to do with you because it shows an open circle instead of a closed circle. So we can see the edges of the graph. So we know domain is going to deal with X and range is going to deal with Y. Now if we go from the very left and we go up and we figure out what that number is, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a negative 7. And since it's a closed circle right there, we're going to use less than or equal to. Okay, see the closed circle right there. Okay, then the right side. We're going to go to the right side right there, and that is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, it's an open circle. See this open circle right there? We're going to use just the less than symbol. Okay, so if it's open, use a less than. If it's closed, use less than or equal to. Okay, now let's go to the y-axis and figure out the same thing. So start with the very bottom. Go over here. You're going to negative 3. 1, 2, 3. So negative 3. And it's a closed circle from that arrow, so it's less than or equal to. Then, if you go from the very top, you go over, it's at 1. And that's an open circle, so it's just less than. Okay, so remember, very left, very right when you can see the edge for the domain, very bottom, very top. Okay, same thing with number 4. Okay, you got a very left side and a very right side. Okay, if you look, here is the x-axis right here. Actually, no, it's right here. This is the x-axis right there. Okay, and here's the y-axis. So you're going to go very left, very right, very bottom, very top. Okay, and you'll write it just like we did on number 3. Okay, it'll look very similar to number 3. Okay, number 4 or 5. This one looks like 1 in your notes. Okay, so look back at your notes. Okay, now number 6. This one's a little different because I have a dot on one end and an arrow on the other end. Okay, so a dot on one end, arrow on the other end. Okay, if you have a dot on one end and an arrow on the other end, both answers are going to look like this. X and Y. Now if the arrow is going up, it's greater than or equal to on both of them. Okay, so we figure out on our X number right here. Where does it fall on the x-axis? Which is 1 to negative 3. Then you do the same thing for the y-axis, which is going to be 0. So anytime you have a dot and then an arrow and it's going up, both of them are going to be greater than or equal to. So x greater than or equal to, y greater than or equal to. Then you just have to figure out where that dot is at the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay? So then flip the page. It looks like the back side is the exact same. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to change up the back side a little bit. Okay, so I need you to change this on your paper. So if you look, okay, I'm going to put dots in other places. Okay, so you change it to the way I did it. Okay, so don't worry about the dots that are already on there. Okay, then on number 2, we're going to change it to this. Okay, number 3. Okay, so make sure, one, if this is going too fast, remember you can rewind and go from there. Okay, so I redid number 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's 5 and 6. Now, remember on 6, I told you on the front side, if the arrow is going up, it's greater than or equal to. Well, if I change it and make the arrow go down, okay, so make the arrow go down, you just change it to less than or equal to. Okay, so don't worry about what's already on the paper. Just do the parts that I changed, and then obviously finish up the front side. So if I changed it on the back, which I changed every one of them, you do what I changed it to. Don't worry about the original problem on the back side. Worry about the ones I changed it to, where I put the dots, how I drew the graph different, all that. Okay, you are to work on this. Once you're done, you turn it into the tray, and then you can get on your Chromebooks and play games. Whatever. Do not act up. Do not get out of your desk. Do not be moving around the classroom. Okay, keep it down. Play on your Chromebooks. Get this done. Okay.